Coca Cola is one of the world's most recognizable brands, ranking amongst the top 10 in 2023. But have you ever wondered who works in their marketing department? A month ago, I spoke to Abbas Arslan, Senior Marketing Director at Coca Cola. We touched on a range of topics, including his upbringing in Pakistan, starting out at Procter & Gamble, as well as some of the trends every marketer should be looking out for over the coming years. This episode is full of actionable insights, regardless of if you find yourself in the marketing world or not. Abbas, welcome to the Leadership Unplugged podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. So we're going to get straight into it. The first question is, if you could tell us a little bit about your upbringing and the roles your parents played in your childhood.
Firstly, thank you so much for having me here. It's a fantastic platform, and wish you all the very best of luck as you take this forward. I think I've been blessed with my parents and the upbringing that they gave me. I come from a family of middle class Pakistan. My father was a civil servant, and my mother was a college professor. So both education was very, very important in our family. Very highly placed. There were books all around. There was discussion on different authors, what's their point of view. There was discussion on the dinner table about politics, about different points of view. Very, very liberal, very open conversations. I think that helped me to share my opinions and made me feel that I should and I can have a point of view on much bigger things in life.
Okay, yeah.
And then inspired me to do a little bit as best as I could. Uh, and I think as I grew up, also there's other value that also was instilled was by my parents, because they were always there for uh, their family, other family members, and also people in general. So there is a little story that my father used to tell about his father. So my grandfather was a small time farmer in a district of Jhang. Um, and he used to tell a story that even if he had very difficult times, or if there was famine at that time, we're talking about like 1930s and 40s.
Yeah.
No one who came to our home and knocked on the door would go without food.
Okay.
I think that those stories and seeing also my parents in action with that spirit also helped me to think. I hopefully a little bit less selfishly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not I'm a highly selfish person, I think myself, but whatever I tend to do, or I have the ability to do for others, it's because of that training that they gave me, and makes me feel that I'm good about the person that I am
Yeah.
only because of them.
Yeah, so it seems like it was quite a communal upbringing, kind of looking after others, not just the family, but actually the community around you as well. Did you have any
Yeah.
siblings, and how were the sibling dynamics?
So we are five siblings. I am the
Okay,
youngest
mashallah.
of those five. We have, Alhamdulillah, the eldest brother, then the three sisters, and then me. And again, I think for all of them, because I had that gap with them, so I didn't have that level of friendship, or also the sibling rivalry that comes through.
Okay, yeah.
So I think I had a positive and a negative on both sides with this. But I always saw my elder siblings also a lot more focused in terms of the what they had to study, and also the extracurriculars that they were doing. And I always got the sense of whether you were succeeding or not succeeding, but they were always trying their best, which inspired me to do a little bit more myself too.
Interesting. So you grew up in Lahore, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so growing up
Do
in
you even
Lahore, no, so my
do you
family is
even
from Islamabad originally.
Hmm.
But I've been to
Hmm.
Lahore numerous times because we have extended family there. It's a very lovely city, very vibrant city as well, in my opinion.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes.
So one thing I like to ask individuals that have kind of emigrated from Pakistan or anywhere and set up shop somewhere else is, you know, what's the one thing that you miss about home the most? And for me, when I go back to Pakistan, it's I tell people it's the smell of the country. It's quite an odd answer to give, but it's such a unique smell and it brings back so many emotions and memories for me. What's something similar for you?
I think for me, it's more of the emotional and social connections. When I go back to Pakistan, I feel like it's like uh, you know the feeling that you have of sleeping in your own bed versus in a hotel
Yeah,
room.
yeah,
Right, I have a bit of that when I go to Pakistan. I feel like I'm sleeping in my own bed.
yeah. No, that's really interesting. And I think looking at your kind of background, you studied in Lahore, you went to Lums to do your MBA. How was Lums different to institutions that you had studied at before?
I went to school in Lahore called Crescent Modern School. Then I went to government college, and I did my bachelor's from there. And then went to Lums. I think Lums had a few things which are very, very different. Firstly, Lums is, and it still is, and also I think at that time even used to be kind of a cocoon within Pakistan.
Hmm.
It was not really Pakistan also, um, in a few good ways also.
Hmm.
I think in more good ways that I love Pakistan, and I think I love the Pakistani spirit of never saying, never saying, you never. It's very die hard kind of philosophy, right? You
Yeah.
keep trying and you keep. That's I think that it's a great that Pakistani spirit has. But also, when I went to Lams, I realized that life can also be lived through a set of clean processes. You don't
Okay.
have to. You don't have to struggle for every moment. You can
Okay.
set processes and you can follow those, and life will run smoothly.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that was, I think, and that allowed, I think, in general, LAMs to be, uh, more clean, um, in terms of interaction with people, in terms of honesty,
Hmm.
than many of the other places that I had seen before.
Okay.
And I think that's one big value that I've seen people from LAMs continue to be to take forward.
And in terms of this kind of culture of setting processes and this like new skill that you learn, is that something which was very much ingrained in the Lums culture, or is it something which a professor taught you, or how did that come about?
Now, I think it's no, it's in the culture of LAMs.
Okay.
That everything is very. I think the way it was set up by its founders and the initially people that they brought in,
Hmm.
the systems were so transparent and clear. You knew what you were doing, and everybody followed the same, regardless of the outcome.
Hmm.
So you trusted that the system is fair.
Okay.
I think that sense of fairness allows people to live by those systems and a more cleaner, a more
Okay.
honest life. I think one of the big issues that we have in Pakistan is that there is, rule of law is very partial. It's very subjective. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
it can change from person to person, from and climate to climate, environment to environment, situation to situation, right? So uh, I think having that kind of transparency and fairness in terms of the system uh, has led it to be a successful organization within Pakistan.
Yeah. No, amazing. I think looking at your career path next, you went straight into marketing, so you started working at PNG. I think the first question which comes to my mind is the obvious question is what drew you to marketing? But I think going a bit deeper, do you recognize, looking back, any early traits within your characteristics and yourself which actually think, okay, I was always built for marketing. This was always going to be my career.
I think yes, this is one few things in my life that I was very clear about was that marketing was the right choice for me. For one reason is because in my first year, first semester at LAMS, I had a marketing and a finance course. I struggled with accounting, especially. I knew that I could not do accounting to save my life.
Yeah.
I still can't. I can't balance the balance sheet at all. It's not my cup of tea. And when it came to marketing, I just got it. I got what the problem was.
Yeah.
I got to understand, how to kind of intersect the science and marketing of science and art
Okay.
of
Interesting.
marketing.
Yeah.
So that just came very, very naturally to me. I think it's also because even before I came to LUMS, I always had uh, you know, I was very culturally inclined in a way because I used to write, I used to participate in debates, I was
Hmm.
part of the theater group, etc. Right, so that expression was in me in a way,
Hmm.
and marketing is something that allows you to bring both of your sides of the brain together. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
therefore I enjoyed it a lot more.
I think what you said was interesting actually about marketing being that hub for both. scientific thought, but also creative thought, right? Um, so yeah, that was quite interesting. I had a follow-up question, but it's completely flew off my mind. So you started at Procter and Gamble. You were kind of focusing on promoting shampoos at the time. As a kind of experienced marketer now, what are some of those foundational skills which you formed during those couple of years at P&G?
PNG, I think then and still now, I think is one of the best marketing universities in the world. Um, it taught me a lot more than what I've learned perhaps at any other phase in my life.
Hmm.
Um, I think what PNG is really good at is again giving you the templates to understand the basics of marketing. So how to approach a business, what to look for to understand whether the business is successful or not. What are the key drivers of a business that would
Hmm.
move things forward? How to assess a storyboard or a presentation that agency gives you,
Yeah.
not based on your gut feel, but there is a process to do that.
Hmm.
How to give feedback, how to receive feedback as a person.
Yeah.
So all
Yeah.
of those things are templatized in at PNG. So these are the things that practically you can do and you can inculcate in your behavior, which makes you a better professional and a better marketer also. So
Okay.
PNG is great at that, and whatever I learned from there has really helped me till today.
I guess during your junior years as a marketer, because I touch back on this in particular, given a lot of our audience are of around the 17 to 27 age group. So a lot of them will be either looking to go into marketing or be in their early kind of years within marketing. Um, when you were junior and you were working through the ranks, is there any like particular kind of hurdle which sticks to your mind? You thought that was a tough time, and kind of can you describe what that was and how you overcame it?
Yeah, no, I think firstly looking back at some of the times, I can think the times which are tough are actually also the ones which are the most fruitful in the longer term because you learn the most in those times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in my time at PNG was a difficult time for me. um, and I think openly say now, at that time it seemed difficult to say. I didn't want. I would have continued for a much longer time at PNG,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't feel that I was being successful there.
Okay.
And that was one of the reasons why, and I got a good opportunity also to move to a relatively good, to also great company. And Coca
Yeah.
Cola, by all means, is a fabulous company to work. I've enjoyed myself more here, but I was not pushed out of PNG, but I didn't. I knew that I was not going to make a big impact there.
Yeah.
So I had a difficult time. Now, when I look back in those difficult times, also I picked up a few very important skills. The very first one was I asked myself this question: do I want to go out with my head hanging low, or I want this to be something which I can write proudly about a chapter in my life?
Mm-hmm.
There was very small success that I was chasing in the larger scheme of things, but I think it was important for me and important to tell myself who I am.
Yeah. Agreed.
So there was a small brand called Herbal Essences. I think it's not even there now in Pakistan market, but at that time it was being launched, and it was a brand that the company was struggling in.
Mm-hmm.
And my role primarily was to make a struggling brand have a campaign which works,
Yeah.
right? And it was in a way that no one really believed in a brand which struggles, which keeps on struggling for many years. And you also put in that person on the brand who you think will not stay for
Yeah.
a very long time,
Yeah.
right? So it was a situation which one could know that it's not going to be sustainable for the long term, right? But I gave it my best shot. Ultimately, Allah had been kind so that I got to an idea which was not my own making, but somebody in the agency crafted the idea. But it helped me to arrive at a point where the brand, at least for the short term, was successful.
Yeah.
So I think one key thing here is to not to give up and keep fighting in a difficult situation because
Okay.
it's a huge indication to you that you are a fighter and you will not give up.
Do you think it's more about the mind framing your mindset to kind of have that outlook rather than because I don't know there's not a lot of people which are necessarily born with that mindset, right? It's sometimes it's you have to have that make that conscious effort to think positively to see the best in things just so you can perform the best. And I guess that's something that not only was important for you at that point in your career, but definitely probably later on and had came in useful many a time.
Right. Yes. Exactly. And I think that's it. Thank you so much for saying this, Hassan. I think that's exactly the point. Because you will find difficult situations in your life. There's no one, Allah has made the world in which He will test us with good times and bad times.
Mm.
So when you get the bad times, you gotta pick yourself up and tell yourself that you're gonna go through this successfully. And if you don't tell yourself this, you know, you're most probably gonna not make it through positively. And
Yeah.
that you telling yourself that you're not good enough to come through, that's gonna stay in your mind because you're gonna get a positive moment after that,
Yeah.
successful moment, because that's the way the cycle of life works. Not out of
Yeah.
your own doing. It's just Allah's way of doing things. Right? So you're gonna successful moment, but you will not believe in your heart that you are worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, agreed.
So, so therefore, I think it's important that when you get the hard time and you don't understand why this hard time came in or how can you get out of it, but it's important that you tell yourself that there is no moment which has comes my way, which is more difficult than what I have the capability of overcoming.
Yes. That's a very good way of
Right. So,
thinking about it. Yeah.
so give it your best shot, and good things will happen after that. Right. So giving yourself the chance, that you'll give your best shot, I think is the most important thing from an attitude perspective.
Yeah. Agreed. No, I think that's a really good way of framing it. Actually, that no obstacle which comes in your way is designed to stop you. You will overcome it. You just have to maybe work a little bit harder than last time, or put in a bit more time. But so you moved to UAE. After you're now at the Coca Cola company. Um, how was UAE back like in 2010, and what do you remember about the moving away from Pakistan and that entire experience?
Right. UAE, I think if it's the people in Pakistan who listen to this who want to move outside Pakistan, and they want to see career outside Pakistan, UAE or Middle East generally would be one of the key places that people would land up in. This is
Yeah.
the way the code structure works. I think reality of Middle East then and right now is pretty much the same,
Yeah.
um, which is that it's gonna, from a dollar, the salaries there are pegged to dollar.
Hmm.
So you're going to get a higher pay. It's relatively more stable. It's a cocoon in itself also, right? So you get a much higher value of much higher quality of life.
Yeah.
So those things I think I have also experienced, and it was a great, uh, experience at that time. But also I have seen that I think the question is, well, there are two questions. If you want to make that move, how do you successfully make that move?
Hmm.
And then once you're there, how do you make the best of that time?
Yeah.
So the people who want to make that move, my kind of it's a recommendation to them would be it's all about network.
Hmm.
So if you're in a company which is already a global company, let's say you're in Nestle, you're in Mondelez, maybe you're in Coca Cola or Pepsi, wherever you are right now, you gotta make connections with the people who are based in your Dubai, Riyadh, Jeddah offices,
Yeah.
and someone will pull you.
Hmm.
Um, so, so have those connections, invest more in that time. So that's part number one. The second is when you get there, uh, my advice would be to know that that's not a permanent residence. So Middle East is a golden cage, um, and focus on the golden part and don't make it actually become the cage for you
Okay.
because there is a very clear glass ceiling. Um, it's yeah, Pakistanis have done fairly well, very very well, and you always find success models. But largely speaking, there is a limit to what you can do over there, and you're never going to become a permanent citizen.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, if you want to have a career outside Pakistan, use that time period smartly to do two things. One, from a cost of living perspective, or the savings that you can do, Middle East is one of the best places in the world.
Yeah.
So, don't waste your money that you would earn from there on things which are not going to be long term.
Mhm.
Try to save money and invest in assets which will grow, make investments.
Mhm.
Second, use that as a stepping stone to go on to your next journey. It could be anything for you. You have done your bachelor's, you want to do another master's. You want to find another job, let's say within your same company, you want to move to a UK, you want to move to US, you have applied for Canadian citizenship, whatever the next job is. But know that Dubai is your, or Middle East is a stepping stone for you to have enough earnings while using that time to make to the next step.
Okay. How are we doing in terms of time?
Let's continue for a while, another 15 minutes maybe,
Okay,
if you can.
perfect. Okay, that's really interesting. I think because I think a lot of companies. I'm based in London, and a lot of individuals are moving to the UAE from London now because there's that there's a sudden uptick in demand for individuals. But I think your kind of analogy about the golden cage rings quite true because you can quite easily get obsessed with the golden element of it and not realize there's a cage there. But actually, that cage is equally, if not more important than the lifestyle, And seeing it as a
Yeah,
launch pad is quite a good way of framing
yeah,
it. So you worked in the UAE for Coca Cola, implementing marketing strategies, etc. Um, how was that experience, and how is the UAE market different to what you had experienced before?
the UAE market, when I was going there, I was expecting it to be much, much more difficult as a market from a competition perspective because I thought, look, this is one market which pays much higher than everything which is around it. So the salaries in Dubai are better than what they are in Mumbai,
Mhm.
Cairo, Lebanon, so they're gonna Moscow, right? So they're gonna attract the best of from everywhere. So this place is gonna be like super competitive.
Yeah.
When I arrived there, I realized that it's not necessarily the case.
Mhm.
Um, so that is actually a good thing. The second thing is that the if you're in Pakistan, you have Pakistanis competing with each other. When you go to Dubai, Dubai is unique in a way because you have many nationalities which compete with each other.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you have this Pakistani group and the Indian group and the Cairo group, right? So
Yeah.
Egyptian group, etc. Right? So you have these groups, these nationality lines. Um, I think Pakistanis, if you land there, I think got to firstly work hard for sure. Right? There's
Yeah.
no way around it because there's, you know, you're there to work only. That's the only reason. But you got to also understand the nature of your organization and find the groups which are in power and align yourself to those.
Mhm.
If hardly ever you find a Pakistani group which is dominant,
Mhm.
but there could be an Egyptian group or a Lebanese group or an Indian group,
Yeah.
and it's difficult to cross over those boundaries. But if you want to stay there successfully for a significant period of time, you got to be aligned at least to one of those groups. Not
Okay.
in that group, very difficult to come into the inner group, but you could be aligned to that group at least.
Okay. No, so it's identifying kind of where the growth is happening within the business and kind of aligning yourself with the right people, essentially choosing the right group of friends to be around or colleagues, etc., to maximize your
Right.
time there. Again, going back to the original point, I think. Um, so obviously you spent time in UAE, then you came back to Pakistan during the Cricket World Cup, which I found was very exciting. What was your what were the learnings from the UAE that you brought back to you with Pakistan, and how did you change the leader between that period of before going to UAE and now coming back afterwards?
I think great question. When I came back to Pakistan, I think I had two things with me which helped me quite a lot. One of them, I think I had a lot more appreciation for Pakistan than I had before.
Okay.
So I took that time to really appreciate the the energy that the people of the team in Pakistan has, and the youth of Pakistan. How hardworking and willing they are to do more,
Hmm.
which I was not finding in Middle East
Yeah.
at least. So I think that energy allowed us to do a lot of good work at that time. Another experience I think that everybody has once you move out of your home country into another part of the world is that you're able to understand the consumer dispassionately. Because if you're coming to, let's say, UK, if you raise all of your life there, you understand the cultural cues without having to work hard about it.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
go to another market, you have to learn the cultural cues and what would work
Interesting.
and not to develop your gut about it. And I think that's something that when you go to any other market, that allows you to develop that gut. So when you come back to your own home market, now you have actually two muscles which are working simultaneously.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have your home market muscle, which you brought up, and now you're also able to strategically think about what's important.
Yeah.
And combining those two allows you to kind of have a higher success rate.
Okay. No, I didn't think of that element actually. Like when you move abroad, you kind of you start to see things differently, and then you bring that way of thinking back to where you're originally. And sometimes you look at the same problem and you can get a completely different answer. So that's really interesting. I think I also saw that when you came back to Pakistan during that tenure, you won some awards as well. I want to ask you kind of what kind of award winner are you? Are you very much anti awards or are you very much for awards? And when you went up on stage to accept these awards, what was running through your mind at that time?
Yeah, I think I am generally I'm for awards if I have to vote, one way or the other. I think but you got to kind of take it with the right mindset. I have personally also gone through a journey in which I took awards to my head of saying, Marketeer of the Year. It's now proven that this team is the best marketing company in the country or in the world or whatever. Right? I not very proud of those feelings anymore.
Hmm.
But I think what was important is also because these things are important for people to do more, to go the extra mile,
Okay.
because they're more immediate in terms of their high that you get out of it. So I think it's good to drive that motivation and extra mile
Yeah.
from the team. That's what that's good for. But then also, I think I didn't have the maturity early on that once you get the award, don't let it get to your head, because I think you're getting it not because you worked really hard or you deserve it, because Allah Ta'ala wanted to test you with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those kind of, as I was talking before, the good and bad times will come. The bad times test you. Good times also test you
Oh,
harder
okay.
actually, right?
Okay, interesting. What do you can you
So
expand on that a little bit? What do you mean by the good times can test you even more than the bad?
right, so it's also I'm not sure if it's a hadith or I think it's a hadith perhaps that more people will fail the test of good times
Hmm.
because they will not be grateful.
Okay.
I think it's that when you get to the good times, you feel that you what you did is because you worked hard for it. You deserve it. That's what Namrud said, because he said all the work, all the money that I have is because of my ilm, because of my
Hmm.
knowledge.
Hmm.
And that's the wrong mindset, because that's when you get proud. That's the test. And so with good times, you can feel proud, which is the worst thing that you can feel, or arrogant. And I think that's where, hopefully, we're all fallible, right? Every time we can fall. But I want to tell myself in every moment of success that it's another test. I need to kind of keep my head low and focus on what's next, just do the job.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, so that's kind of yeah, framing it more as it's a moment to enjoy, not to kind of linger on for a long time. You need to keep moving on. Otherwise, my dad always tells me you can always have a target which might look like a mountain, but the first step is always taking the first step towards the mountain. You can try and imagine how you're going to get up, but you have to take the first step
Right.
always. Um,
Yeah.
I noticed whilst you're working in Pakistan, actually, the word innovation starts to pop up. And I wanted to ask what innovation actually means in a marketing context.
Right. No, I think innovation, firstly, I think innovation means everything. There is no marketing without innovation. People will remember marketing. What is marketing?
Mm.
Marketing is your ability to change somebody's opinion or behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what marketing is. Now, how do you change somebody's opinion or behavior? They will only consider a new idea because it's new, it's innovative, right?
Mm.
So you're gonna present an old idea in a new way or come up with a new idea, which is innovation. So always, I think one of tests of a when you sit through in a marketing meeting and you think of ideas, one of the most important gauge is to say how new it is.
Yeah.
Does it make someone uncomfortable? Does it make me uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Right? And if it doesn't, it's not a great marketing idea. It's not innovative enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then it can seep into your communication and your style of delivery, the product formats, packaging, right? So it can come to life in any different way, but in essence, it needs to be something that you haven't heard before. So you have to take a moment to what was that, and then make you a bit scared to say, is it really the right thing to do?
Yeah.
That's the starting off point of a good innovative idea.
Interesting. And these meetings that you have with your teams and stuff, as a leader, how do you balance the need for these meetings having some sort of creative element to it, but also making sure there's direction? How do you kind of enable that to happen in an effective meeting?
Right, right. I, um, and different people have different ways of doing it, and they all work. For me, I think one thing is that I particularly I think my strength really lies in driving clarity.
Okay.
That's what I'm I think more good at. So I hold the kind of torch to say clearly identifying where we need to go. But then I would also then encourage the team to be bold about the ideas that they bring back.
Okay.
And I've learned something from my one of my previous bosses was whatever will take to him in the first meeting, he will reject it.
Okay. Do you do the same?
Yeah, sometimes we have to because you got to kind of see what's the next level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And another thing is that as the ideas go up the ladder of management, they keep getting diluted. Hardly ever you will find a great idea.
Yeah.
An average idea travel up and become bolder.
Okay.
Hardly ever happens.
Okay.
Right? It's always a great idea which will get watered down as it goes up. So the more innovative the idea is, its diluted form is going to be slightly better. It will be less diluted as it go up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why it's very, very important to, at an early stage and with your early level teams, to push to be as dynamic, as different as possible.
Interesting. I want to start. This is a question that I came up with a little bit earlier as well, whilst we were talking, but I want to ask you now. Is you mentioned kind of have each individual thinking about or having a definition of what success means to them. Um, have you found that during your journey, your definition has changed, and or do you think it's always been one constant which you're still striving for today?
So no, I think my definition of success has definitely evolved, and I think it's evolved it many times. I, I'm sure whatever is I'm defining right now will also change in a bit.
Mm.
So I like to kind of think of there is a person named Ray Dalio.
Yeah.
I would request people to kind of look into him. Perhaps not if not as successful, if not more successful than Warren Buffett. He's actually as successful as Warren Buffett
Hmm.
in terms of investing. And he's a wonderful book called Principles,
Yeah.
which is definitely worth a read. So he says that if I think back a couple of years ago about my choices and my mindset, and if I think that I was stupid at that time, it means that I have not evolved enough. I have not learned enough. So definitely, I think that also I feel that many times that my definition of success has changed.
Yeah.
Um, I think I used to put a lot of value on what I am able to contribute um, and show my contribution uh, to the work that I was doing. And over a period of time, I've realized that whatever I may be able to do in the overall scheme of things is not big enough.
Yeah.
So, so my definition of success, I think, from an outward contribution perspective to the world has become more of, do I feel um, satisfied that I have given my best, no
Hmm.
matter the outcome. So if I can
Okay.
be
Okay.
answerable to myself in a positive way, that's my definition of success. I think it's really released a lot of pressure of judgment of other people of me.
Yeah. So it's more input focused rather than output focused.
Hmm.
Okay. No, that's really interesting. I think I definitely think that's true because at the end of the day, as individuals, we can only control what we put into the project or the effort we put in, the time we put in. A lot of these external factors we can't control, and that is what a lot of time causes a lot of stress when it comes to big decision
Hmm.
making or leading projects and etc. Um, just a couple more questions because I'm conscious we're going to be running out of time soon. I saw very recently on your LinkedIn that Coca Cola came up with a concept drink which was created with AI, so flavors and packaging, etc. And obviously, AI is a very hot topic at the moment and a buzz topic. So I wanted to ask you, what role do you think AI will play within the marketing field, and especially looking at the creative side of things on that?
Right. I think AI is a pivotal technology. It's not a fad. Just like, for example, smartphones, have they gone away? No, right? It's just continue to grow. Social media has continued to grow. So AI is like this. It's adoption of Chat GPT, and the way it continues um, shows that it's the stickiness value, and it's just going to grow from here.
Hmm.
Just as a comparison, do you remember Threads?
Yes.
Right? Launched what, like 3 months ago.
Yeah. No
You don't
one
even
really
hear
uses
about
the
it.
product. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly, right? There's no stickiness to it. So
Hmm.
it's one of those metaverse. A year ago, it was the all the kids, right? I think that's the thing, right? So this is AI is here, and it's gonna not just stick; it's gonna grow from here.
Okay.
So it's a pivotal. Uh, it's pivotal to marketing and everything else also that we do. So it's
Yeah.
important to understand what could be use cases for it. Whatever I say right now, I think is going to change because the whole technology and space is evolving at such a rapid pace.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think there are few areas. Let's divide them largely into two, which people should keep an eye on. One is predictive AI, the other one is generative AI.
Yeah.
Generative AI is something that is more in the hands of people, so we understand it slightly better. You have ChatGPT, you have Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, right?
Yeah.
All those platforms, Runway ML. So that I think whoever may listen, you should sign up. You should play with it in your own free time and just be comfortable with these things.
Yeah.
Predictive AI is slightly more based on databases, large language models. So again, if you have time and energy, it will be good to understand that part. It's the more science part
Yeah.
of marketing. What you would see, I think, going forward is that the cost and the speed of production of content will go down dramatically, even more so than what it is right now, right? So um,
Yeah.
people will be able to control that output and, and keep on iterating until you kind of hit the kind of right spot, and then go on from there. So the content creation speed will even skyrocket even further.
Yeah.
And once the models learn what works, they're going to auto generate themselves.
Okay.
That's going to happen. um, you want to be the person who knows how it works, and you want to be the person who controls or at least shapes this future.
Creates the prompts, and I guess you can call an AI engineer to a certain extent.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's not very difficult, honestly. It's just, I think, being the person who understands and knows it, so that in your organization, you're the person who leads that conversation.
Okay. No, that's a really good way of framing it. I think especially for younger listeners who they might have a better inclination towards technology as well, actually taking that ownership
Hmm.
of the AI revolution and being a spokesperson within the organization. That's a really good way of making sure you're in
Hmm.
the right position going forwards.
Hmm.
I'm just going to wrap this conversation off. A very insightful conversation we've had. The last question is, if your 10-year-old self could see you now, what would they say to you?
My 10-year-old self,
Yeah, yeah.
I think, will be very disappointed because I'm not an astronaut. I'm not, doing anything which is cool like that.
Oh, no.
I have not been able to become the cricket team captain, right? So
Oh, God.
I'm surely disappointed.
Well, I mean, okay, let's just reframe the question. Maybe, I don't know, the individual that first went into his MBA alums, and if he was to see you now, what would he think?
I think would see a very different person on how I would imagine my career to go. Um, Again, I think different, not in terms of good or bad, because there are
Yeah.
certain things which have been, I think, very, very good, and certain things which are not I expected it to be. So I think it's a bit of a meeting of a stranger kind of a feeling. If
Oh, okay,
my
interesting.
20-year-old and a 40-year-old self were to meet, they were like, 20-year-old would be like, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I think, I think if you're in your early 20s, as you were saying, 17 to 27 is your core audience, and you kind of want to look into your next 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
Um, Life is going to shape you in ways which are different. This is how life is very difficult to predict. Who will you marry? How will you work? These opportunities come by and things happen. You can't really plan those.
Mhm.
I think it's important to define what are principles that you have in your life. And if you're able to stick to your principles, you will enjoy your life more. Principles are going to be different for each person because each person has a different set of values, and you're different, from your experience and upbringing, etc. But I think the more consistent you can be in how you apply yourself, I would just request that define those and then let life happen,
Yeah.
and enjoy, the good and the bad as it comes.
Okay. No, that's a very, very, very good way of ending off the podcast. Thank you very much, Abbas, and I've had a really good conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Hassan. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.